Hey Allison friends, I know this is really late and I give you an excuse, but I don't really have one other than laziness. So Allison's off in Ireland for a little while. I'm not sure when she's going to be able to post her next video, but I'm sure it will be awesome. As you may be able to tell, I'm doing this from a new apartment. This won't be my permanent background. I haven't got my desk set up yet. We were supposed to buy it yesterday, but the earthquake combined with it not fitting in the car made that a little hard. Thanks so much for pulling the video up, and let's get started. Today's topic are dragons, like these little guys. These are specifically Crestonians, which my family have been collecting since I was a little kid, who now live around my apartment. I've been surrounded by dragons since my childhood. Since I was a kid, my family got me giraffes and dragons. Those were the two big things. And I wanted to share that love with you. Not in a creepy way. There have been a number of television programs that have gone into dragons, whether or not they're real and going through their history and our cultures. Some of them look at how you could actually build a dragon by looking at how animals that do exist work and figuring out how big their lungs have to be to make the fire and how big their wings would have to be in comparison to their bodies so they could fly. But the ones that are more like what I'm doing here are the ones that follow them through the cultural history and look at the mythology, not necessarily whether or not they could be real, but why we think they're real and what we actually say about them. Dragons is kind of a broad term. It's used to describe all sorts of scaly, mythical beasties. Some of them large and some of them not so large. There are basically two categories of dragon, the European ones and the Asian ones. There are some in South America as well, but I didn't look into them. Let's start with European. This is specifically Britain because that's where the dragon myths are most prolific and most well studied. Dragons are known for two things in Western folklore: getting the crap kicked out of them and having a shit ton of treasure. The hero would go out, slay the dragon, steal his treasure, and bring it back for the glory of himself, his king, his god, or whatever else he was interested in. There are plenty of possible symbolisms for these struggles between man and beast. There's man versus nature, man versus himself, man versus other man. My personal favorite is Christian versus pagan. The Christian obviously being the knight and the pagan being the dragon. The early Christians loved their dragon slaying myths, and a number of saints were the ones to do the slaying. This includes the well-known St. George and St. Samson of Cornwall, who lured a dragon out of its cage and over a cliff. Dragons were big and scary and scaly and monstrous, so if the early Christians could beat them, pagans would be easy picking. Dragons may also have been the medieval version of UFO sightings. They would see strange lights in the sky, which were often followed by weird weather, and they would think it was a bad omen, that the dragons had caused some sort of bad weather. In 1222, dragons were sighted over London, and then there was this really big thunderstorm. This, of course, was the dragon's fault. And now we get to Asian dragons, which I don't know about for the rest of you, but I really knew very little about. The Asian perception of dragons is completely different, according to my research, which was mostly about China. They have great respect for dragons. Basically, everything and anything awesome is symbolized by a dragon. They symbolize power, excellence, valiance, nobility, strength, all of that good stuff. They're also thought to control water all the way from rains to the seas. Some individuals even count dragons as their ancestors. There was a Japanese emperor who traced his lineage all the way back to Princess Fruitful Jewel, who was the daughter of a sea dragon king. Dragons are seen as supreme beings with amazing power. They come with the breath of life, and they control the rains, and they're extremely important. They still have the snake-like bodies that the worm has, but they have no wings. They don't breathe fire or poison. And they also don't always look like dragons. Apparently, they're also shapeshifters, so anyone and anything could be a dragon. As for types of Chinese and Asian dragons, there's a number of types, but I'm just going to go through a few. There's the Tianlong, which protect the skies and heavens by supporting the gods' palaces and protecting them from aging. These dragons have 5 claws and are always gold. Then we have the Shenlong. These ones control the wind, clouds, and rain. Then there's the Tilong. These dragons decide the course of rivers and how much water is in the rivers and protect the banks and all that. And there's supposed to be 1 per river, and they're always green. Then there's Futslong. And these are the treasure dragons. They guard the jewels and the treasure underground. And they had a giant pearl that was supposed to multiply anything it touched, and this pearl was supposed to symbolize wisdom. And these ones were always red. The dragon doesn't seem to be based on anything that would lived contemporarily with humans. Some ancient human could have found a dinosaur skeleton and decided it was a dragon. It could have been storytellers exaggerating, especially if it's combined with that first theory and added wings and fire breathing and all that exciting thing that storytellers love so much. Another theory, maybe the church made them up, at least in Europe, to scare potential and current Christians into staying Christian. There's a number of other theories, of course, that you can find at the Serene Dragon link below. Some seem a bit far-fetched to me, but they're interesting. all the more for it, really. And of course, we haven't lost our fascination with dragons over the centuries. If anything, it's grown. We've developed the mythology to include so many different types of dragons. There are dragons that are no smarter than a lion that just eat whatever they come across. And there's dragons who are slightly more intelligent, eat everything they come across, and then get killed out anyway. And then there's the ones that get trained by humans to be like horses or dogs. And then there's the ones that are as smart as humans and work alongside them. Everything you can imagine has been done with a dragon and is probably being done again right now, including some things you don't want to think about. I think it's really important to look at the relationships in these stories between dragons and humans. At least in the West, I think they go a really far way in showing how humans interact and think about their environment. Do you work against it and fight with it and try to control it and get every ounce of anything you can out of it? Or is it something you work with for both of your benefits? Back when the stories first started in Europe, nature was scary. They didn't understand what caused anything, and everything seemed to be the power of something else. If you could find what it was, defeat it, then your world would be a better place. Now that we understand what causes these storms and these other environmental problems, we don't need to fight nature as much. We can find ways to work with it. And I think that is one reason that these stories with the dragons has changed so much in the West over time, and why there's such a variety of them now. We're in a time of flux in how we treat the environment, and hopefully the incoming of all these positive stories about human and dragon relationships is a sign that our relationship with our environment is going in a positive direction as well. I'll see you all soon. I'm going to talk then about bookworms and other dangers to your papery friends. See you then.